Last week, we talked about Tennessee and these new NIL rules that the NCAA has rolled out. Well, they're not rules. NIL guidelines. That's they had to frame it correctly. And it's the NCAA going out and trying to get a hold at all on their remaining relevancy, which they essentially have none. There's growing and growing talk about breaking away from the NCAA, which thank God, please praise the Lord that we're actually having serious talks about breaking away from the NCAA. Finally, it's been a long time coming, but uh, these new rules and whether the NCAA is going to come for Tennessee, because what they're trying to do is make NILs into boosters, and boosters cannot have contact with players before they're at the school. Um, and so if you make these collectives, not NILs, these collectives, you make collectives into boosters, and boosters can't have contact with players before they get to the school. And so is Tennessee breaking the rules by having the collectives that they have contact with recruits? Essentially, we kind of chalked it up to that's nonsense. Good luck with that, NCAA. You're just, they're just grasping at straws finally, and they're in the death throes of the final stages of the NCAA. But we talked about in that clip that the pushback on the NIL Wild West that Tennessee is obviously taking part in, some of the biggest purveyors of pushback were Nick Saban and Kirby Smart and the Georgia and Alabama programs. And I posted a video, and admittedly, a little bit of clickbait. Hey, we play this game. I'm here for eyeballs, okay? I do. This is how we make money. Look, you make money at your job. This is what we make money from getting eyeballs on stuff, okay? It is what it is. And I posted on YouTube a clip of us talking about that. And I titled it, what was the exact title? Tennessee's NIL recruiting is scaring Nick Saban. And I put a picture of Nick Saban like yelling and Josh Heupel, and there's a whole thing. Alabama fans found it, and they had some thoughts about what we said. And we said, I think saying that Saban is scared is probably an overstatement. I don't know, he's scared. That's probably not the correct framing, but it pisses him off. I can tell you that. And if you're him, you're not happy about it. The landscape is changing under his feet, and he's having to adapt yet again. And he's been so good at that in his career. But just and I think he wants to hold on to what has made him so successful. And I think you agree, Zach. We were pretty much in agreement on that. But we just wanted to go through and read these comments. And there were a bunch of Alabama fans. And here, I just want to get your thoughts initially, Zach. I'll give mine too. Here's a couple of these, and you can go to A to Z Sports on YouTube and see these comments for yourself. This guy says, Tennessee offers a kid $8 million because they have to be able to get the kid. Bama, Georgia, Ohio State don't have to. You hear that? I know my immediate thoughts on it. When you hear that, Zach, what is your thought?
Well, I mean, maybe Alabama and Ohio State and Georgia haven't offered $8 million to a kid. I mean, it's inflation right now, right? Recruits cost more than they used to, but Alabama and Georgia have definitely paid for recruits. I mean, we look in the world of recruiting. It's a dark world at times, and there's a lot of shady stuff that goes on that never ever sees the light of day. And a lot of these 4 and 5 star recruits, I mean, somebody that's like top 5 player in the country, programs are having to pay just to get in the room with these kids initially. I mean, that is something that happens, and we know happens. I know firsthand it happens. So the idea that Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State and any top program has ever been completely clean is just absolutely insane. I mean, it doesn't matter who you're or what level you're at. Alabama is going to be recruiting against somebody. They're not going to be recruiting much against Vanderbilt or Kentucky or Kansas or any of these kind of lower bottom of the conference teams, but they will be recruiting against Georgia, Ohio State, USC, Notre Dame, a lot of major programs, Texas, and it's the same. It's the same battle. It's just different opponents that you're going against. So yeah, of course they have to work in some financial incentive. I mean, those kids, they have the leverage. Everybody wants them. They're going to parlay that into a payday. Why wouldn't you? So no, Tennessee's not doing anything any different than anybody else is doing.
There was a time in the early 2010s when Kentucky basketball with Calipari was getting every 5-star that hit the market. I mean, just all of them. And they had these transcendent teams that were so good. Ultimately, they only got one national championship out of it, which is hilarious, frankly. But I remember specifically, I don't know. I don't want to attribute, but I'm pretty sure it was Matt Jones at Kentucky Sports Radio. We had him on the show I was on, and his take was that Kentucky didn't have to pay players like everybody else because they're just so good. It's Kentucky. We're so good. You can come here and play in the Final Four, and all the 5-stars can be here with you. We don't have to pay the play. And again, I think it was Matt Jones. I don't know. Don't go and like.
Sounds pretty. It sounds just like something he'd say, so I can buy it.
But it was somebody like that, and I go, are you delusional? Like, do you have a realistic thought in your head? Because if this kid, I mention this last week, in the last couple of weeks, I think. So I apologize if I'm sort of repeating myself here, but like Louisville gets outed with Rick Pitino that they paid a kid $200,000. And if that kid went to Louisville for $200,000, how much do you think Kentucky is paying these kids? They can get $200,000 Louisville, and they're choosing Kentucky over Louisville. So how much is that kid getting? Because he could go to Louisville and get $200,000. They don't have to pay anybody? What? Are you? You got to be kidding me. You got to be absolutely kidding me. Because here's what I know when it comes to Alabama and recruiting, and we don't have to pay $8 million for our recruits. Here's what I know. Texas A&M was the number 1 recruiting class in America last year. The report came out that they put together some big deals for these kids. And Jimbo Fisher has kind of denied it and walked around it and whatever. We know what's going on here. They got that oil money at Texas A&M, you know. All of those engineers and everybody that comes out of there, they're willing to pay. And like half of the last few governors of the state of Texas went there and stuff. Like, they got big donors and alumni. And here's what I know. Evan Stewart, 5-star receiver, didn't go to Alabama. He went to Texas A&M, and Texas A&M reportedly paid. Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy didn't go to Alabama. He went to Texas A&M. Connor Wegman went to Texas A&M, didn't go to Alabama. And here's the thing. Alabama probably wanted a few of those guys. And yet, they went to Texas A&M, who has not won. And they did beat Alabama last year. Incredibly, that was a weird apparition of a game. But so if those kids are going to Texas A&M and Alabama's still getting these 5-star recruits and being competitive in this market, I can tell you this: Alabama is paying these kids. Yeah, it might not be $8 million. Tennessee's price tag might be a skosh higher. Sure, that's fine. But if you think that these kids are just going to Alabama for the A on the jersey, and we don't have to do that. We're Ohio State and Alabama and Georgia. We can get all of these recruits. What world are you living in where you think that you don't have to play the game that everybody else is playing? You're not above this. This is everybody is playing in the snake pit. Everybody's a viper. Everybody that's actually competitive. That's what I always say it. College football is a snake pit, and if you're not a viper, you're gonna get eaten. That's what it is. You have to be that guy. Hugh Freeze can go out here and act like he is the reverend of a megachurch, but at the end of the day, he was cheating and paying recruits. It doesn't matter.
That's the perfect example for Texas A&M and for these other programs. Texas A&M comes out of nowhere. They have the number 1 class. Yeah, and we know that they're paying. In 2013, I think Ole Miss came out of nowhere, had like a top 5, top 10 class or something, and there was everybody instantly is like, they have to be cheating. Like, where did Ole Miss just out of nowhere? They hadn't really started having, I don't know if that was Hugh Freeze's first year or how long he had been there at that point, but they hadn't really, I don't think they'd beat Alabama yet. They hadn't got to the point where they were giving Alabama a tough time on a regular basis. All of a sudden they come out of nowhere and they got like one of the best classes in the country. And then several years later, we find out, oh yeah, Hugh Freeze and Ole Miss was doing some shady stuff. every single time a class comes out of nowhere, it's because money's involved. So, yeah, of course, we know Tennessee is using NIL stuff to their advantage. But the question is who really cares when it's been going on for so long that this is how you build good recruiting classes. I mean, that is the foundation of how you do it, how these other programs have done it. Who cares? I mean, Tennessee's doing what they have to do. I mean, they're doing what every other program's doing. They're just doing it a little bit better right now.
Tennessee is on the bleeding edge of this whole thing. I think rightfully so. It pisses those guys off because arguably Tennessee is kind of dancing on the line. They are. I don't think there's any denying that. And other schools,
and Alabama and Georgia would not be if Tennessee was not doing this right now with the NIL stuff, where it's really been so public. Nick Saban and Kirby Smart wouldn't be vocal about the NIL stuff. No coach would, because why would it matter? Because if Tennessee's not using it to their advantage, then it's not this huge story that it's been over the last couple of months, because they are the program that's kind of been kind of the face of these NIL deals. So for these Alabama fans to say, "Oh, Nick Saban doesn't care about Tennessee," or Georgia fans to say Kirby Smart couldn't care less what's going on in Tennessee and recruiting, then why are they talking about it? Why is it even coming up? Because Tennessee's the main program utilizing this stuff. And then, USC, Miami, those programs don't really impact Alabama and Georgia as much.
Looking through some of these other comments, Alabama and Nick Saban aren't afraid of Tennessee, lol. That's such a hot take. And to me, that's not necessarily a rebuttal. But you go, well, you're watching a video about how Saban is scared. You're looking for this stuff. You want to listen to it. You care. They're kind of like, it's one of those situations where they have to denigrate. There were some comments. Let me look back. They said, imagine paying $8 million and not even getting the best QB in the class. Well, Tennessee didn't even try for Arch Manning.
Wisely, because they would have wasted the entire summer on that situation. And Arch Manning is not going to be swayed by a massive NIL deal. Now, I'm sure he'll get paid some money. He'd be foolish not to utilize his what he's built for himself and what kind of his name provides. But I don't know that Josh Heupel's system was what he wants. He's a more traditional background. So Tennessee was very smart to not get involved there.
This person said, enjoy Nico for 1 year. He'll be there before he enters the transfer portal and dips to the school that Manning didn't go to. Nobody fears Tennessee and nobody will. He's called us bozos, but that's a funny, dude. That's a funny, I will say that's a funny word. I like bozos. If you're going to call us, there's a lot of idiot, moron out there. Those are the more boilerplate words. I like bozo. That's kind of out of left field. And he says, these two bozos are just overly excited for Tennessee. Maybe. But here's what I do know. Again, you're watching the video and you commented and you feel compelled enough to say, no, we're not scared. We're not. Nobody's scared of Tennessee. Why? How am I supposed to believe that? And yet you're here. It's methinks you doth protest too much. You know what I mean? We're not scared. We're not concerned about this. We're not concerned that Tennessee got the number 2 quarterback in this class. I don't know. We're not concerned about that. That Tennessee didn't do anything last year and still got this kid. You should be concerned. You should be concerned about that. It's okay. It's okay that you can go like, oh, Tennessee might have a little momentum. I'm not saying Tennessee is going to turn around and win a national championship next year. I think we all know that they're not. And I'm not saying they're even going to win it the next year. It's going to take a while to build this thing up. But you should be concerned long term that Tennessee is finally getting 5-star recruits again. Yeah. Why would you not be? It's foolish.
I sent it to you last week at some point where the Georgia website Dog Post, I believe, where the guy that works for them made an entire YouTube video based on this Nick Saban, Kirby Smart being afraid of Tennessee. Named us, named A to Z Sports, and kind of laughed and rolled his eyes a little bit and made some interesting suggestions. Somebody had sent that video to me, but yeah, it's obviously it's reached them as well, and they felt strongly enough about it that they had to make a rebuttal where they kind of suggest that like what the NCAA is not going to listen to Kirby Smart and Nick Saban. Like, yeah, yes, they are, especially Nick Saban. If you think they're not listening to what the highest profile coach in college sports says or thinks about a situation, you're absolutely crazy. Like, where are you living? Of course they are.
I mean, I'll make a concession, and I'll do it for Georgia. It's like Georgia a couple years ago in basketball. They get Anthony Edwards to commit to Georgia, and I still don't know how they did that. Tom Crean, however that pickup. I mean, he was one of the top recruits in America, and yeah, Georgia had been in the absolute dumpster up to that point. But you look and you go like, whoa, that's big. That's a really big recruit for Georgia, and he's turned out. It turns out Tom Crean just might be a really bad coach, and like, he sort of wasted those talents. But I didn't look at that and go like, this isn't concerning to me. I went, whoa, that's a really, really good player. Yeah, he's going to a garbage dump team. I'm interested to see what Crean can do. And I would say Tennessee last year was not as bad as Georgia basketball has been in the last few years. But which to me, this should be even more concerning than Tennessee picking up a good quarterback, and especially with Josh Heupel's offense that gave Alabama and Georgia both fits. I'll say I didn't just brush it off and go like, no, that's a nothing. I don't care. No, I cared. Like, you stunk, but you're picking up one of the best players in America. That is, and you're right down the road, and you're right here, and we recruit against you. Anthony Edwards should have come to Tennessee, in my opinion, but he didn't. He went to Georgia. That is concerning to me. And
it's just like South Carolina right now, Spencer Rattler. I mean, you hope as a Tennessee fan that the guy is overrated. I mean, he didn't really show at Oklahoma that he was going to really live up to the hype, but you also know the hype's there for a reason. And hey, I think every Tennessee fan saw Spencer Rattler go to South Carolina and thinking like, I hope he doesn't turn out to be like the next Joe Burrow that comes out from transfers and just burst onto the scene, and all of a sudden South Carolina is one of the teams to beat in the SEC East. They're a lot more difficult to beat. I mean, we've seen that all it takes is a dynamic, game-changing quarterback to change the entire season for a program. And I think that's why you've seen so many Tennessee fans kind of downplaying his addition to South Carolina, because it's kind of like, well, we're not going to talk it into existence type approach. So yeah, of course, I mean, I'm sure South Carolina fans will disagree, but and it's not the same gap, but Tennessee views South Carolina probably a little like Alabama and Georgia view Tennessee. So I think it's a fair thing to be concerned. Like, hey, Nico shows up and he's the next Cam Newton type player. Tennessee could be in for a year where, hey, they finally beat us or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's a thought that you would be foolish to not have. I agree on the Rattler thing. We do have a little more certifiable evidence that he's not that guy, at least in Lincoln Riley's offense. I mean, he was sporadic.
Which is kind of what South Carolina's is going to be.
Yeah, that's true. Beamer. But you just sporadic reports that he's not a great teammate, that he's kind of an arrogant, sort of all for me kind of guy. And, there's things like that. But of course, like you're saying, it could flip on a dime and he could end up being that dude. And yeah, I
think Tennessee fans are aware that he's there.
Yes, I would be lying if I said those thoughts did not go through my head. And sure, I am 1A when it comes to people who made fun of the Rattler edition. I will say, and sure, I'll have to eat those words. But I will also readily admit in this conversation, I'm not going to go out and be like, no, the thought has not crossed my mind that he could be good. Like, it has. He was a 5-star player coming out of college. and he was good enough to make Lincoln Riley want to bring him to Oklahoma. And so, like, yeah, I could see it. I don't have a ton of faith in Shane Beamer necessarily, but like, it's still like I'm still trying to decide how much faith I have in Josh Heupel. I mean, it's first year. Well, I guess Beamer's a true first year coach. Heupel has a little more experience under his belt, but like, so first year at the program that they're at, sort of coaches, we're feeling it out. And I just thought that this whole thing was funny. That was the bulk of the comments. They're all kind of like that. We're like, we're not scared. We're definitely not concerned. These guys are bozos. It was a lot of that. And that's okay. It's okay. It's okay that you're concerned. And like I said, scared is probably an overstatement. Yeah, you're probably not scared, but you should look around and be like, if we don't get Arch Manning, it would have been nice to be able to get that kid.
And one of those programs is not.
Yeah, one of them's not getting Arch Manning. You can't go both places. So one of you is going to be wanting a quarterback here in a minute.
Both of them might be. He could end up in Texas.
Yeah, well, that's true. They both might be one. That's true because Texas is kind of.
I think that's where his heart is. Not to get too far into Arch Manning recruitment, but I think his heart is at Texas and with Sarkisian. But he needs to see them take a step forward in this season before he signs up for that.
If Texas puts it together and they actually get him and like Sark improves a little bit, I honestly for his legacy, I think that's the right choice. I obviously say, full disclosure it's a bias of me being like, please, dear God, don't go to Alabama. But I really do say I could see it from his point of view being like, I'm just going to get out of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to go time myself to Alabama. Not going to go time myself to Georgia. I'll go step out to this sort of third party over here. And he's from Louisiana, and Louisiana and Texas they got cultural crossover because they share a border, and a lot of recruits go to Texas A&M out of Louisiana. A lot of Texas recruits go to LSU. And so to me, that choice would make sense, as much as I kind of go like Texas is a joke of a program at the moment, who almost fired their coach after one season this offseason. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. It makes sense to me that obviously, and that they can put up the money. Texas can put up that kind of money that Arch would probably be looking for. And so, yeah, that choice would make sense. And man, what a relief to everybody else in the SEC that would be, to be like, okay, if we see him, it's going to be in 2025 when he's like a junior, and maybe just for 1 year we'll have to deal with the guy. But
I mean, I find it hard to believe that Alabama and Georgia, and I know LSU didn't because they're pursuing others. They weren't really. I mean, they were pursuing Arch Manning because they're supposed to. He's from Louisiana, but the Mannings and LSU, they kind of spurned them a few times. But Alabama and Georgia, I refuse to believe that both of those coaches were so short-sighted that they put all of their eggs in the Arch Manning basket and refuse to recruit Nico. Like I just don't feel like that's the case, because they each know that one of them's going to miss out, and they have to, if they're smart, if they're making contingency plans, they have to know that.
I was looking to see who is remaining. Malachi Nelson is already committed to SC. He's the other sort of elite quarterback in there. Dante Moore. I forgot about him.
That's an LSU Notre Dame battle right there. Pretty much, Brian Kelly was hard on him at Notre Dame, and that's really the LSU's guy. I mean, they've obviously done the work on Arch Manning, but that's like their Nico, who they're really focusing on. So I don't think
the only other 5-star is Jaden Rashada. And looks like Alabama is not in his top set of schools. Ole Miss, LSU, Miami, Cal, and Oregon, Texas A&M.
So, I really think we're going to see Alabama, and Lane Kiffin is already doing it, starting to do it, kind of, and Georgia maybe. Georgia, it's hard to see them really starting to land elite quarterbacks because of the way their offense runs. It's very run heavy. just one reason that I feel like Arch probably has a good relationship with Kirby Smart because Kirby comes from that same era as Eli and Peyton and Cooper. They kind of, Peyton played against him, he's kind of friend of the family type deal. But I think you're going to see Alabama, Ole Miss, a lot of these programs just really start to hammer the transfer portal and get these guys to come. They go to Missouri and have an unexpected great year or something like that, and then Alabama's going to scoop them up.
That is the outlier to this whole thing. That it makes the playing field more even, but I think you're still going to have the same phenomenon as just regular recruiting before, where the rich just get richer. It is just going to be, and hopefully Tennessee can get into that rich category and be one of the folks that gets richer, because obviously Tennessee has the resources. I think that is something that is, no matter what these Alabama fans say or whatever happens, you simply cannot deny that Tennessee has the resources. Do we have to pay $1 million to get a quarterback to come to Tennessee? Supposedly, theoretically, allegedly, yes. But the thing is, Tennessee got $8 million to give out. That's the thing that you can't deny. And there's a whole bunch of schools that don't have that power. And so you have to deal with that. And we're right on your doorstep. And we're coming for your guys. We're coming to go get the guys that would have gone to Alabama instead of Tennessee. So I get it. You may not be scared, quote unquote. That might be a strong word that I use as a clickbait title on YouTube. But you should be concerned. You should be. Because this is a powerful brand with a lot of money and a lot of resources behind it. So